Right, well, welcome, Shelley. Really good to have you with us today. You're going to talk to us about your school setting in particular, but mainly about how you managed to make your curriculum inclusive for all of the young people that you've got working with you. But maybe just to start with, you just give us an outline of what your setting is, what your school is, and the types of students that are working with you.
Yeah, of course. You okay if I share my screen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me give you permission.
Okay.
Okay, you're right.
Hopefully technology will work. Let's hope. There it is. Done. Sorry.
Yep, that's working.
Yay, brilliant.
Yeah, there we go, thank you.
Okay, so it's not going to work. It won't let me do that. Right, not a problem. Okay, so the place I head up is called Triple R. It's a extension of Rivermead Special School here in the UK. And it's a specialist provision for secondary age children who have got mental health needs. Complex, severe mental health needs. So we opened in November 2009 after many, many, many years of planning with the local authority and the proof that we needed this in the area. So I'm just going to just go through here with just explain what it is. So what is it? It's we are actually commissioned by the local authority to provide the Medway Hospital School provision. And we've done that for quite a number of years. I think we've done that for about 8 years now. And we used to be tiny. We used to have like 6 or 7 children.
He's a nice boy.
Pardon?
So somebody got somebody got their telephone on or something. Hello?
You all right? Shall I carry on?
Yeah, carry on. Yeah.
Okay. So so we're actually commissioned by the local authority. So we are known as the Medway Hospital School Provision, but we are part of and we are embedded into Rivermead Special School. As I said before, it's for learners with mental health needs who are either post-inpatient from clinical provision, and they all are receiving ongoing treatment of some kind of intervention from the CAMS outpatient psychiatric clinical caseload. The reason we opened up Triple R was because we found the research and all the data for Medway especially was that they were these children were being farmed out across the country. They were away from their families, they were in residentials, because there is no other provision in the southeast of England like us that they could access. So that was the reason why we opened it. So having Triple R means that the kids can remain in their local community and remain with their families, which is really important. And what we're really proud of, we were open a year, and we were the 13th provision in the country to achieve the Trauma and Mental Health Informed School Award by TISUK. So we've been recognised for that, which is amazing. Okay, so who is who? So we're part of the Rivermead Inclusive Trust. We've currently got 3 schools in Medway. Although we've got 3 schools, we've actually got 7 provisions within those schools. So we're a mixture of primary schools, special need, secondary schools, which incorporates our post-16 at Mid-Kent College and also Triple R. And we've also got a primary ASD provision as well within one of our schools, which is, I think we're up to 78 kids in that provision as well. So even though we are a small multi-academy trust, we've got quite a high number of children. So Rivermead Main School is the main school. It's based in Gillingham in Medway. And then where I head up is Triple R. We're about 10 minutes up the road, so we're not far. So we often find that our teaching staff we do mix and match across the settings, which is great. So Triple R, it's got 3 routes. We've got what's called our enhanced provision. It's full-time provision. The referrals for these children that come into us come via the local authority because it's a higher funding bracket. And every child who's in the enhanced provision has been under section of the Mental Health Act or is at high risk of being sectioned under the Mental Health Act. And they're all on a psychiatric caseload. We've then got our reintegration programme, which is also excuse me, full-time, and those children can be referred to us via their home schools, because that just comes under the normal hospital school funding. So there's no extra funding for those children. So that doesn't have to go through the local authority. And again, they've got to be on the CAMS, or the Medway Young Persons Wellbeing Service caseload for intervention. We also then do home tuition, which is what we started off doing with the hospital school provision. And we've got a team of tutors who are amazing. Each child's allocated between 5 and 10 hours a week. And again, they can be referred via their home schools or medical professionals. These children are usually an outpatient or even inpatient via Medway Hospital. And they can come to us for something like broken leg that they can't access school, right up to, we have got some amazing specialist tutors who actually do end of life as well. So they are a special bunch, our tutors. So there are 3 routes. Why we opened the provision, said a little bit about keeping the children in Medway and with their families, but our main aim of RRR is to provide a safe, secure and purposeful learning environment for these kids, to increase their self-worth. Our main aim is to re-engage with education. We offer bespoke opportunities which are suitable to not only their age, but also their needs. Just because they're older doesn't mean that they've got the attainment levels to access certain things. So we make sure it meets their age appropriate, but also their needs. We offer an individualised curriculum pathway. I do apologise, my son is banging on my front door. Do apologise because he's not picking up, sorry.
You want to go and let him in, Shelley?
I do apologise, it's my daughter. Okay, the mum working at home. Right, so yeah, we offer an individualised curriculum pathway. We develop their skills and knowledge and in education and attainment and things like that, as well as preparation for preparing them for the future. That might include life skills. We have a varied range of curriculum, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then our aim is also to successfully reintegrate them back into their home schools or either onto a post-16 provision, depending on what age they are when they come to us. Okay. So we have a trauma-informed approach. We have quite an ambitious curriculum. It's very bespoke to the individuals, and it's all based around engaging them back with life. So we have our little onion here. So at the core of it, it's all about engaging them with life. Obviously, education is a priority for these children, but equally engagement with life. Some of them are absolutely broken when they come to us. They've been out of school for quite a few years. Some of them, they've been in hospital. I'll talk you through a little case study in a minute. We've got one learner that's been out of education. She was out in and out of hospital for about 5 years. And yes, the hospital that she was in did have educational provision, but obviously her mental health was a barrier to her education. So now she's out, she's with us, and that's one of our main aims. So we recognise that every kid is an individual, and we use what's called the PACE approach, which is, I'm not sure if any of you have heard of it, originated by Dan Hughes. So it's activating the learner's physiological active systems, and it's all about calming them, enabling spontaneous, energised engagement and an interest and curiosity around them. So we're trying to create that curiosity and that love of learning and engagement with life again. A lot of our kids, when they come to us, their social defence systems are really, really high and at the forefront of everything. And they either lash out, shut down. It's that typical sort of freeze, flight or fight scenario. So yeah, so everything we do is focusing on that with their well-being. So our intent is not just about meeting their complex mental health needs, it's providing the opportunities and the environment to prepare them for getting back to education. And we've got some things that we're very mindful of when they come to us. So a lot of their previous experiences of sport are quite negative. Learning, they're completely disengaged. A lot of them, they don't all have to have an EHCP to come to us. We have a mixture. It's not part of our criteria. But some of them that do, obviously SEMH is their main presenting need. The mainstream delivery of education is not appropriate for these children. They just can't cope. And as I said before, many of them have been out for quite extended period of time. We also have to be mindful as well that we have a very high flow intake and outtake of RRR. We're getting referrals weekly. So we're taking throughout the year. I mean, we're just in the process of taking 3 more. So as soon as we've got gaps, as soon as we've transitioned some back or onto another provision, we will then take others in. So we've always got a waiting list. So we have to be very mindful of the dynamics of the groups that we have as well, because they're mixed age group classes. We do try and keep them near enough similar ages. But if at the moment I've got quite a few year 10 and 11s, and now I've just had a referral for a year 7. I haven't got any other year 7s. So it's just trying to work out the dynamics of it. So we're very mindful about that when we're creating the groups. And then we use the national curriculum, obviously. We're a school, we do follow the national curriculum. We use trauma-informed evidence-based practice. We use bespoke curriculums. We wrote our own emotional intelligence curriculum, which was heavily informed by PACE and the theory of protect, relate, reflect and regulate theorems. After we opened, I completed a postgraduate certificate in trauma-informed practice. So a lot of that knowledge that we've gained has informed a lot of our practice as well as a team. And we have a high enrichment curriculum as well. We have a lot of community work, or not work, but activities out in the community, because a lot of these children, they go from home to us home, and that's their life. So we try and get them out into the community because it's all about that engagement with life again. So yeah, so we have a broad curriculum, and we also, it includes specific SEMH focused learning, which supports their engagement of the curriculum. We have integration timetables. So we have an aim that at a certain time these children are going to leave their house and come to us. So we have a kind of 4-week reintegration, integration into us program, which is a lot of work with the families and the children to get them out the house and into the building. And then we aim that by 6 weeks, they're going to be with us full time. For some, it works. For others, it can take a bit longer, dependent on their needs, and also dependent on family support and what the families have gone through as well. Sometimes we feel that we work a lot more closely with the families because they need that support as well. So yeah, so we have an integration timetables into us, and then we also have reintegration timetables to wherever they're moving on to. And again, that's got quite strict timeframes in our eyes, but it's flexible. We meet the needs of the learners. Everything we do is really, really flexible. So a big thing for us is protect, the Dan Hughes theorem of protect, not only for the children, but for our staff as well. We provide professional supervision for our team. This helps them to reflect on their work and for them to receive support and guidance within structured relationships. We use ed psychologists, we use counsellors, and we're actually just training up a couple of our trust team to be able to provide supervision as well. That's something I fought for because there is a risk that my team can, what's it called? Secondary trauma because of the work that they're doing with the children. So yeah, so we have group supervision, we have one-to-one supervision depending on the staff. Again, that's really flexible. We have debrief times at the end of crisis events. We do that weekly anyway, but if there has been a particular incident in our place, we will do a debrief with all the staff. We have things like a staff only room. We have the staff room and then a staff only room, because our kids do go in the staff room, because we build up that rapport, that respect with them, that they do respect the staff room as well. I make sure that all my team, no matter what, get late lunch breaks. In education, we will just work, won't we? And we can run ourselves into a ground. So I make sure that every member of our staff takes a lunch break daily, completely away from the children. I have coffee meetings with the staff once a term, just to check-ins. It is a big protect factor for us. We have quite a high family ethos, not just within RRR, but within our trust. And we give time for personal commitments and things like that. There's open doors policy, and we have a high CPD specialist program for the RRR team as well. So I just wanted to quickly just go through a case study of one of our learners.
Shelley, before you do that,
Yes.
and I think, you know, it's fascinating what you're saying, but we've got a few questions that have come up in the chat, which you might...
Oh, sorry, I can't see that.
No, that's all right.
No.
First of all, first question, can we have a copy of these slides?
Yes.
What assessment strategies do you use?
Okay, so when the children come in, we do all baseline academic assessments, because we need to obviously know where they're at. As I said, some of these kids have been out of education for quite a while. We do transitional work from their previous schools. It's really hard for some of the home schools, because they may have kept them on roll for a couple of years, but they've never seen them. So we do kind of do a bit of work with the home schools, but then we do some clear-cut baseline assessments academically. We use Boxall profile as a baseline assessment, and I work quite closely with some of the hospital schools in Kent, and we devise a mental health. It's not an assessment, it is very much a capture of their current presentation in their mental health, and it covers sort of hopes for the future, self-esteem. So we get the children to do a baseline when they come in, and the staff do that as well. We do it as a team, how we've just sort of seen them over the first couple of weeks and what we think. So we do the SEMH, the Boxall. We also do, the academic side, we do a range. We do reading ages, maths tests, you name it, we do it.
Okay.
So that's the range of assessments that we do.
Right.
We do speech and language as well, because there's high links between speech and language and mental health. We do a baseline for speech and language as well.
Sandra, does that has that answered your question sufficiently? Okay. Obviously listening in.
All right.
Another question is, what is the makeup of pupils, students, population in terms of gender and ethnicity? What sort of proportions are there?
Predominantly girls. We have a high population of girls. We have a high population of year 10 and 11s. We're noticing over the last year that we're a high trend of girls that are coming from grammar schools. Ethnicity wise, predominantly white British, but where there has been, my last few referrals that are coming in are learners of more ethnic minority groups who are coming out of hospital as well.
Okay, that's interesting. Why do you think you've got a high predominance of grammar school girls?
Pressure.
Okay, so mental health pressure, yeah, okay.
I can only surmise that, but that's my opinion. It's the pressure. And girls often, the research that we've been doing lately, we're finding that, and the readings we've been doing with ASD, girls are very, very good at masking, and they have coping strategies, and then it gets too much, and then they have their mental breakdowns.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'll just come in there just slightly, if it's okay. just interested then, because obviously at the moment with everybody having done a lot of remote learning and so on, there's a big movement about catch up and recovery and all of those things. And obviously if you've got children who've gone on to grammar school, they're obviously going to be very capable. So when you're setting your curriculum, your personalised curriculum for those young people, how do you manage to then get their progress to become more rapid, I guess, to see whether they can make the progress that will give them a better chance as they move forward?
So another thing that I didn't mention, we CATS test them when they come in.
Right, yeah.
Well. So that gives a sort of like cognitive ability picture as such. Mm. We do, I mean, Triple R in itself is an intervention, but within that intervention, we do a lot of one-to-one catch-up work. We, from our own assessments, we gap fill, and a lot of it is gap filling, backfilling. And it is very much, I mean, how the teachers do it, I do not know. But I mean, I walked around yesterday and for instance, there was a class and it's got predominantly year 10 and 11s in it. So we're aiming for their GCSEs. And they're all doing maths, but every kid was doing something different. And I was like, why didn't you just group the gaps together and teach them all each week? Because then none of the gaps from the gap analysis is similar. They've all got different gaps. So she is sort of all that blended learning to gap fill. And then as well as, and we use that with our one-to-one interventions as well. And then as well as progressing them on. So our teachers are amazing the way they do it.
Yeah, I mean, you talked earlier about self-assessment. So you were saying when they come in, you include them in making that start point assessment. So does that continue in the lesson so that they're continually self-assessing the progress that they're making and maybe making decisions on what they feel they should be looking at next, whether it's in maths or whatever subject, doesn't matter. So
well, we do that within the subjects. Sorry, Malcolm.
No, go on. Yeah, no, it's just.
We do that within the subjects. Yeah. So we set goal. We have goal sheets at the front of all their books. So from their gaps, the teachers sit with the children and they set goals, termly goals. And even though they are termly, if they achieve them, then we just put some more in. But the learners are encouraged to, as they're working through and they feel that they're achieving their goals, to record those on the sheets. Yeah. And then that's sat with and reviewed with the teachers. And then, yeah, great, you've achieved that. Right, let's set another goal. So that there is discussion around what they're working towards with the children.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Another question. What age are the girls coming from the grammar schools?
Predominantly year 10 and 11s.
Yeah. And a ratio of teacher to student?
Wow, it's quite low at the moment. Per class, we don't have an average within class. We've only got 3 classes. I take up to, I'm funded for 30 places, but that includes the home tuition as well. So, but because I cannot say no, I think I've got about 39, 40 kids at the moment. So we've got a teacher in each class, and then we've got at least 1 support team member in the class as well. But then we've got extra staff that are pastoral. So we've got a learning mentor, we've got pastoral assistant, so they can, and so that's where they can book in one-to-one times and things like that. And then obviously we have got the flexibility of the teachers from the main school coming up, their specialist subjects for science and various subjects like that. So when they're up, that's when you'll see our teacher, the Triple R teachers, doing all the interventions and all the one-to-ones.
And then one more question. If you start from the premise of gaps and catch-up, how do you ensure that they are not placed under more pressure of catch-up?
I think it's because of the ethos of our place. It's all very, very supportive, and because we focus on the protect and relate, it's done in a very nurturing way, and it's really hard to describe it without you seeing it. But it's just the relationships that we have at our place and the respect and the rapport that we have with the children, that they don't see it that we're pressurising. For those that want and that we feel are able to, we will give them homework and things like that. For those that are not able to cope, we don't pressurise them to do that. So some make accelerated progress more than others, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
But we're always mindful of their mental health, otherwise they wouldn't be with us.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I said one more and then another one popped up. If pupils or students come in throughout the year, how does the funding work? Is the funding from the DFE, LA or other schools?
So the country has a separate pot, completely different to all other schools, specifically for hospital school funding. So this funds provisions such as Great Ormond Street. So all the big hospitals obviously have hospital provisions. They get tons of money, and quite rightly so. We're really small beans compared to them. So we have a sort of a chunk of that money. And so that funds us completely separately from the other schools. So we're funded a lump sum each year, and that funds 30 places. And it's how I manage that money. And like you do with school budgets, it's just managing that to make the most of it. But from that money, obviously it pays for the building, it pays for the staffing, it pays for everything. The only thing that we do claim from their home schools is if they're vulnerable, as in PPG money. If there's PPG money, we do ask. And then obviously we have to provide schools with what we're buying with that and everything. So they've got that for their records and their reports.
That's great, Shelley. There is one more question, but we'll come back to that one later, I think. Well, it would be fantastic now to go on to your case study, if that's okay. So, Rashida.
Yeah, of course. So this young lady came to us when we first opened, and she's had previous hospitalisation for about 5 years. So it started when she was about, I want to say 10-ish. She's 18 now, and she's still with us. It's her last year with us. Usually we don't take post-16s, but there was nowhere else that the local authority could place this one. So obviously, yeah, she stayed with us. So not sure if you're aware of ACEs, but she has the highest ACE score I've ever seen in a young learner. She had 16 out of 20. And her protective factor score was 3, which were her mother's love when she was little, but that's gradually decreased over the years. She had infant play interaction, and her protective factors were her neighbours and her friends' parents. She was chin, but she's 18 now. You can see from this is something we've trialled called Motional. And you do this with the child, and it's lots and lots of different questions, and it gives you a snapshot of where they're at regarding their systems. So without going into lots and lots of detail, the greens are the care, the seeking, the play systems, and then the pink is the rage, fear and panic and grief, which you can see is how high that is. And then the blue is her sort of confidence, self-esteem, interpersonal skills. So that all fits in with our SEMH assessments as well as our Boxall profile. So when she first came to us, she just presented so much with behaving the traumas that she's experienced through her whole life so far. And we worked really closely with her on psychoeducation to reflect on it rather than behaving it out. So the first thing we needed to do was build up the trust. She did not trust anybody, quite rightly so. And some of the experiences that she encountered in hospital with other patients and staff just obliterated that even further. She had a lot of unprocessed trauma, and she was constantly in toxic stress, and that fight, flight or freeze. So you can imagine, and this was 24/7, she was like this. This is while she was in care when she first came to us as well. So what we did we built up the relational experiences. That was the first thing we could do, because we didn't even talk about education, as in academic education. We needed to build up that relational experience with her. So it was all through the staff responses, using the repetitive, quite firm boundaries with her, but consistent. So she after a while, she realised that this was going to happen, because she wasn't used to that. There was no judgmental, there was no shaming, there was no threatening. It was all about empathetic, repetitive and reflective relationships with her. We had one-to-one scheduled sessions with her. She's obviously got the nurturing and the soothing environment of RRR. And just to contain her and listen to her and actually hear what she was saying. She was the one that really embedded all of our training that enabled us to really put this into practice with her. So the main thing was the social engagement with adults, to feel safe, understood and interested in her. We used a lot of PACE theories regarding play, acceptance, curiosity and empathy, but we needed to be conscious of her age, because when you say play with a 15-year-old, and it's like, but there are ways that you can do that, and it's just that adult or more grown-up humour and playfulness that you have with them. We did a lot of empathy drawings, big drawings, so she could not put the words to her feelings and her emotions, so we used a lot of empathy drawings with her, or as she was talking, I would draw things out as she was talking, and she learned to use image to reflect how she was feeling, and then what that enabled was the words to come through working with us. We used a lot of metaphors with her to talk about what she'd gone through, and for her to explain how she felt that, and we did a lot of reflective work with her on that. We did a lot of physical outlet work with her. She's no longer, she was very angry with everyone and the world. So we did a lot of things like punching paper, slamming clay, and this was a daily occurrence with her for a good 7 or 8 weeks. The outcome of that was she could reflect on her trauma rather than behaving it in some. She was originally, when she came to us, she was self-harming, and I mean to the extent of ligatures. She would bring in tools or anything to harm herself with. And the outcome of this was that there was a massive reduction in her self-harming at RRR and at home. Her suicidal ideation was lessening, and then obviously her Boxall and her SEMH scores were starting to increase slowly, but it did increase, which was great.